Friends, very good evening to all of you. I welcome you all to this CP meeting on audit documentation for corporates. In fact, in the past also I have told that most of the time the chartered accountants does an excellent job where they have to perform the attest function. But the moment it comes to documentation, we have very often seen that they are kind of not maintained. So it is very important these documentation are kind of maintained, and very importantly are able to be demonstrated later that it is on these things what you relied upon in arriving at your audit opinion or the objective of the audit was achieved. So today we have an eminent speaker, Adithya. In fact, we have been in touch with for a longer time. So I told Adithya, you'll have to give us a topic which will be of contemporary relevance. And now that the tax audit season is also almost getting over, we thought we will have one for the documentation. That's an ever season topic which can never die, because that is one thing where we all chartered accountants have to be very careful about. So before I request C. Abhishek Murli, Secretary, to introduce the speaker, let me request C. A. Sundarajan, a Regional Council member, to kindly address the gathering. Sundarajan sir, please.
Namaskar. Respected Chairman of SIRC of ICAI, DC Jain sir, respected Secretary, Sri Abhishek Murli, respected Speaker of this program, Sri Adithya sir, respected members viewing this program, Namaskaram to all. As the name of the speaker, Sri Adithya, suggests the name of the sun god, an authoritarian by nature, whose descendants in is Harichandra, who stood for his word even when he lost his son, and his descendant, Lord Rama, who kept his father's words, who even kept his father's words by going to the forest. Later, the Yuga Dharma changed, and the last word of the sentence, Aswatthama Adaha Kunjaraha, was silenced in Dharma Yuddham to make good people to win over. Currently, words or improper documentation cannot save the profession, neither save a professional, neither from his client nor from the authorities or people who depend on the document. That is why ICAI issues a lot of guidelines, notifications to be followed for documentation. For example, appointment of auditors and their corresponding board resolutions, no objections from the previous auditor, failing of relevant acceptance document with ROC, filing of relevant acceptance documents with ROC matters much, which otherwise lands you in disciplinary cases or levying a penalty. With this few words, I conclude my opening remarks for this conference, and I wish this program a success before I thank SIRC of giving me this opportunity. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Sundarajan sir, for highlighting that if you do not want to be under the clutches of disciplinary committee, see that your documentation is kind of maintained properly. Abhishek, over to you to introduce the speaker.
Thank you very much. A very warm good afternoon to all participants who have joined in today. Dynamic Chairman of SIRC, C.A. Dungarchan Jain, my fellow council colleague, C.A. Sundarajan sir, and of course the speaker of the day, C.A. Adithya. I must say that I'm very happy to have this topic here today, and Sundarajan sir has joined us and gave a very lovely welcome address. And we have tried, the chairman and I, to ensure that either of us or both of us are there for every single meeting. And I must first start off the program by thanking the chairman for joining us now live from the airport, actually. So he is joining us live from the airport. So that is the dedication that he has. So thank you so much, chairman, for joining us live from there. Today's topic, as highlighted both by the chairman sir and Sundarajan sir, is a very important topic. I'm sure you all must be just getting out of the tiredness of filing your income tax returns for your SSC, and now you have another 5 days for your tax audit report. So the timing of this can be said to be very, very important and imminent. As highlighted by Sundarajan sir once again, the role of the auditor has been evolving. We have all heard of that phrase. Auditor is a watchdog, not a bloodhound. But you have seen in the last few years, all the regulatory authorities are expecting us to be bloodhounds only. So therefore, if you're going to be a bloodhound or if you're going to be a watchdog also, there are certain documentation that you should have as a bare minimum. I'm sure Adithya is going to take you through all the details, but I must insist this is the bare minimum that we need to do. We need to try to reinforce our documents even further. And for us to know what these important documentation are, is we have a very, very good speaker, well respected and young speaker, CA Adithya, who's joining us today. I have the privilege of introducing him. See, Adithya was born in Madurai, from where our chairman hails, and he did his schooling in Chinmaya International School in Coimbatore. After his 12th standard, he did his CA course, joined the CPT, and he finished his IPCC while doing his articleship in Chennai. In fact, he also has done his BCom and has completed his CS, company secretaries as well. In fact, he handled the entire accrual accounting pilot project of the Southern Railways and Metropolitan Transport Project, or MTP, as a major project coordinator between the senior railway officials and the railway board. In fact, he handled many professional specializations such as internal audits, statutory audit, concurrent audit, revenue audit, and many more. He's a visiting faculty for CA subjects in various academies and is empaneled as a business law subject teacher. In fact, he is also a faculty for the law subject in all 3 levels of the CA course. He is also a professional tabla player and a stage drama artist, and is also a social worker. This is only a brief introduction about our young speaker, CA Adithya. Thank you so much, Adithya, for accepting our invitation to address our members at this very, very important juncture. We welcome you to the SIRC. We're looking forward to your presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Abhishek. Adithya, I'll be there for some time.
Thank you.
I have to kind of take a break in between. So Sundaran sir and Abhishek will take care of the session going on. Over to you, Adithya, please.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much. Before I move on to the subject and before we move on to the core discussions, as much as we already been highlighted by all our 3 senior members. First of all, my pranams to all. Instead of saying hi, hello, and being a Western guy, I would be an Indian rather. So I would say pranams to all my seniors. I'm sure everybody is a senior to me over here, whoever is attending this conference with me, because I'm just 26 years old. So I'm sure many people will be more and more experienced than me, and more much more older than me, and much more would have seen a lot of issues in regard to whatever we are going to discuss it today. Whatever I'm going to talk also, it's going to be a minuscule of things, but I'm sure everybody would be aware of all these things much before, but it's just going to be a refresher for everybody. And why I wanted to share something with regard to audit documentation, because I have seen some of the finest documentations of late, in this period of 21 to 26. I qualified in the year of in the age of 22, and since these 4 years I have seen a wonderful amount of documentation that the firms have been keeping in Chennai as well as in some other states also. So out of that one best such documentation, I wanted to compile that, and I wanted to share it, and I wanted to show it to all of you, so that you can in your firms or in your practice, you can try to inculcate those practices and inculcate those documents and keep it ready for any future uses. So as Abhishek sir has previously told me, I'm also a faculty for the students. So I take for law subjects across academies in Chennai as well as in Salem over here, and I'm a full-time practicing chartered accountant today. So not 6 months before, 6 to 7 months before, I was a working employee in one of the firms, one of the very leading firms in Chennai. Now I am a full-time practicing chartered accountant at Salem, who's just budding. Actually, not even a grown-up practicing professional, but just budding. So just starting. So thank you to all. Thank you to Dungar sir. Thank you to Sundarajan sir, and thank you to Abhishek sir for their wonderful introduction. And thank you to Dungar sir for his wonderful opportunity he has given me. If everybody could understand Tamil, now வந்து ரொம்ப நாளா அவரை விரட்டிட்டு இருந்தேன் நான். Actually, I wanted to address this topic சொல்லிட்டே இருந்தேன் நான். ஒரு டாபிக் கிடைச்சா போதாது. I wanted to speak to the members. I also wanted to I wanted to see how the CP meetings are. Now since I just started my practice 6 months ago, எனக்கு CP meetings நான் பெருசா attend பண்ணது இல்ல. So I just wanted to understand how the CP meeting goes, but due to some or other reason, some work reason or something, I could not attend. Webinar என்னால work பண்ண என்னால attend பண்ண முடியல. Suddenly one you're asking me to speak on this topic. I'm just a budding so experienced. He told me. So thanks for all the encouragement, sir, and thank you for providing me this opportunity. So starting with the topic with regard to how is it going to go for this next 2 hours or next 1.5 hours or whatever it is, I would like to throw some. Why do we have something called as document, and how do we start creating a document when we are doing an audit? Not even creating, we are just whatever we are signing and whatever we are approving the financial touch upon for hardly 15 to half an hour, and after that whatever I've seen till now. So that it will be it will be our own practice, whatever to be done. So starting off, is everybody able to see this? Is it visible? Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is. It is visible.
Abhishek sir, is the screen visible?
Visible. Yes. Please proceed.
So starting off with some amount of documentation, sir. Before I start off with that, one other condition which I wanted to know, I would require some bit of interaction so that I would be able to so that this session, I know this is a very dry subject. I know this is a very dry subject, and it is very boring as well. I know that because it is a repetition as well, but I know that, but kind of we can make it interesting so that everybody could share their own incidents, and the senior professionals over here could share their own incidents as to what have they done and what have they done in such dire situations and such extreme situations. Thank you for that. So starting off with some audit documentation. What is a document, sir? First and foremost, what is a document that we need to understand? A written or a printed paper that bears the original, official, or legal form of something and can be used to furnish some decisive evidence or information. So whatever is a document, sir, even if I have a letter pad with me from the client thing, or whatever, or even a small amount of piece of paper is also a document which it can be in the electronic form, it can be in the printed form, it can be in any form that whichever is supporting towards my decisive information or decisive or whichever is supporting to my decision, that will be called as a document under audit documentation. What is documentation? Now we have seen what is document. Something regarding to documentation refers to the act or an instance of the supplying of documents or supporting references or records. So documentation is a process of creating the document and storage of such documentation under our kitty so that it is useful for the future uses. Documentation and audit, it is just the audit procedures performed, relevant audit of evidence obtained, and a conclusion that the auditor has reached, such as working papers and are also sometimes work papers, otherwise known as working papers or otherwise known as work papers, are also sometimes used. So in this topic of this basics, we are going to understand what is the main purpose of audit documentation. We all know that just to retain that, and for it is a supporting document for all our whatever decisions or whatever signing that we are making. It is just a purpose of such audit documentation. But is it confined to that level, sir, or is it more than that? Can anybody answer that for me, sir? Is it confined to the decision that we are making or to the sign that we are making, or is it more than that, sir?
Since Adithya Selva here, since it's in webinar mode, they can respond only through chats. So I have made you organizer, so you can see the questions panel, so you can see the response for the same.
Questions panel, sir.
Yeah, you can expand it. If there is a pop-up or something, you can expand it and you can see.
Okay.
Right next to into mark, there is option called undock the pane, right? You can see. Right now there is no response, and maybe they might be.
Okay.
Right
Anybody,
in the
anybody has any response, please type it over here, sir. I'll be more than happy to take your comments. Thank you.
Yeah, we can open it and see. Yes, thank you.
It's open, sir. Okay, no problem. So let's move on. Let's move on to the purpose of audit documentation. What is audit documentation, and what is the ownership of audit files? We say something about ownership of audit files. Is the audit file each and every audit evidence that we obtain from the client's assignment or from the client's audit that we are doing? Is it everything is ours? Second point. Third point, how we should store our audit documentation. We say that it should be confidential. We say that it should be it is pertaining to our own evidence, which we cannot even share it to our own friends. Even though I will leave our own friends, even to our own family also we cannot share. Which is something we say that it is our confidential information which can be leaked outside. Something we call it as a price sensitive information, which cannot be shared with people. Audit documentation is the principal record of auditing procedures, applied evidence obtained and conclusions by auditor in the engagement. So the purpose of audit documentation mainly, sir, to answer the question which I have questioned it myself. The purpose of audit documentation is not only to store for the future users or for anything, or even for the next level of audit or for next level of any standards that we are fixing up. The audit documentation requires to be kept with them, because what do we do is generally if you are getting engaged as an auditor of a new company, which is very similar to the company which you have already audited. Something similar situations you would have encountered over the years, during the audit that you are going through. Sometimes you'll not be able to go through, or sometimes you'll not be able to flip through what you have done for the previous one. Is there any issue, sir?
Delay or lag in your voice due to the maybe internet connectivity or something.
Are you able to hear me?
Now audible, but it's
Are you
getting
able
lag.
to hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Okay, fine. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, now I can hear you. Please, you can continue, sir. You can continue now, please.
Yeah. So moving on to that, sir. So purpose of audit documentation, we say that. So carrying on with the example, wherein you're getting engaged as a partner, or you're engaged as an auditor in a new company, for which the nature of the business you have already done before. If you have not stored any documentary evidence or any evidence or any documentation before, you would not be able to carry out this audit in ease. Of course, you'll be encountering a lot of situations of difficulty and a questioning mind, and all those things will be there. So once if you have a reference material in your hand, you can easily refer to, and you can easily satisfy the audit. I mean, you can easily complete the audit over there. So this is for the future uses, as well as to keep ourselves safe, as well as to ensure that okay, we have done this audit. What is the proof of doing this audit? Unless or until nobody in this world now believes that whatever you say, or whatever you show in paper, everybody they will believe. And ownership of audit files is, it's always yours. These are very price sensitive, which the client may not be able to share. For those information, it is both auditors as well as the clients. So if it is leaked out, it is entire responsibility of the auditor. So moving on with some, what are the basic activities that we do in audit documentation aspect. First and foremost, we have understood the purpose of audit documentation, and as well as the confidentiality that we need to understand or we need to go through over the audit engagement. Now, what are the process involved in audit documentation? First and foremost, we need to understand what are the types of documents that we need to obtain. What are the documents that we will obtain, sir? We all know, we have all read our auditing standards, right from SA 301 to whatever standards we have to till the end of the standards we have. Everything we have read through, sir. So every standard says, every standard, if you could flip through each and every standard has specified this word called as evidence. So what is the evidence that they call it as? So first and foremost, we call it as well as external. There are two types of this thing. I repeat once again, which is internal as well as external this thing. External evidences. So prepared and used within the client company, which does not go outside the client. For example, we do something called as a test of details, TOD, or test of transactions, TOT, or test of particulars, TOP. So all these things which are being done through our own sources, our own documents from the company, from the documents which are from our own analysis, which are done through such analysis are done through the documents which are being provided by the company, which is an internal document, bills, vouchers, letter pads, letters, certificates, etc., etc. Whatever is in the ownership of the company, which we are acquiring it as an evidence, those all are called as internal documents. Something which is external. External means where we are getting something called as external confirmation, data confirmation, creditors confirmation, bank confirmation, cash confirmation, auditor of a head office or the company which is situated in the headquarters, and the company has involved her. You could get an audit certificate, or if you get bank confirmations, creditors confirmations, loan confirmations, unsecured loans confirmations. So all these things forms part which is coming from out the company, which are taken from the outside.
Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Adithya. Can you turn off your video so that the video is making a bandwidth? There is a lag in your voice while you're delivering yourself. You turn off your video alone. Audio is fine. You can share your screen. I'll turn it off from my end. Now we can continue, sir. Hello.
Yeah. Can I continue, sir?
Yes, sir. You can continue.
Yeah. Can I continue, sir?
Yes, sir. You can continue, please.
Can you?
Yes.
Yeah. Sir, Abhishek sir, is it clear now, sir?
Yeah, it's clear, Adithya. Only thing is you can turn off your video alone so that it won't consume your bandwidth, because it seems your bandwidth is low.
I'm just turning off my. Just a minute. Yeah. So is hello. No. Useful. I did. Share பண்ண. சரி ஓகே இப்போ கரெக்டா இருக்கு. ஓகே கரெக்டா இருக்குன்னு நினைக்கிறேன். Abhishek sir, is the presentation visible? Okay. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mukundan sir. Thank you so much for your this thing. So moving on with the. So I'm just repeating the whatever we have discussed, sir. If somebody would have missed it, please request you to attend it once again. Others who have already attended, request you to bear with me, sir. So types of documents. So we discussed with two types of documents, sir. What are the two types of documents? First and foremost, internal documents. Internal documents are those documents or those supporting papers which we are taking from the records which are being kept by the company by themselves, or which by the company or client by themselves. For example, bills, any documentary evidences, bills, notepads, the agreements, sales contract agreements, whatever it is, everything which is coming from the company, we can call it as internal documents. For external documents which are coming from outside, like bank confirmations, bills confirmation, debtors confirmation, creditors confirmation, legal confirmations, advocate confirmations, loan confirmations, cash confirmation from branches if you are not an auditor of such branch. So all these confirmations which are coming from outside, it's called as external documentation, and which are even more reliable than the internal documentation. So next thing that we are going to understand is, so now that external, once we say that external documentation has come in, we have already said that it is more reliable, so we need not touch upon that much unless or until there is a difference between there is an external the balance as per external confirmation and balance as per what is prevailing in the books. So the next point is that we're going to discuss about is the document vouching that we are going to understand. So now that we say this, we have obtained something called as an internal documentation, we need to understand how to go about such internal documents, either bills, agreements, contracts, etc., whatever we understand. How do we go about it? We call it something called as test of details or test of transactions. We all know, sir, sampling methodology. We have done audit sampling and audit. We understand. We take some this thing. we are taking some samples, random sampling, MUS sampling. I've seen a lot of examples of sampling over this thing. We have understood. Sorry. We have gone through a lot of sampling methodologies over our years of practice. So test of details or test of transactions, whatever it is, we can do it in this particular document vouching process. Okay, so examination of such supporting documents that that support a recorded transaction or an amount. The direction of testing must be from the recorded item to the supporting document. So the purpose of documentation is here, wherein to provide the principal support for the auditor report, including the representation regarding observance of the standards of fieldwork, which is implicit in the reference in the report to the generally accepted auditing standards, aid in the audit and the conduct and the supervision of the audit. Unless or until an auditor should be like, unless or until the documentation is complete, he should not sign the financials. I know I know a friend of mine who have been who had signed it was his friend's company, and without any documentation or without any documentary evidence, he, because of this friendship that he had with this or relationship that we had, he signed the balance sheet. Unfortunately, that person is in the CBI inquiry now, and he's been he's been being inquired, or he's being tortured day by day for providing documentation and all these things. So none of the other auditor, I would suggest everybody, I would suggest all the other auditors also to maintain proper documentation, or until proper documentation is kept, please don't sign any report or something. That's what I would say. So some of the legal provisions, we all know that this thing, there is our CA Act, We all know that CA Act, unless or until they say that we should obtain evidence and we should all maintain that there is no misstatements in the financial statements, and we should have proper evidence to support that there is no misstatements. Everything it says, but nowhere evidence only it says. Nowhere it says the auditor should maintain proper audit documentation for these these many period and all those things. So, but I have just given some clauses over here. This professional misconduct fails to disclose any material fact known to him which is not disclosed in a financial statement, but disclosure which is necessary in such opinion. Material misstatement in which he is concerned in a professional capacity, does not exist due diligence, grossly negligent. So unless or until we can, how can we say that we have exercised due diligence, sir? Unless or until we don't have an audit documentation, how can we say that it is proper? We have carried out our duties properly. Okay, we moving out of the risky zones. Okay, mitigating the risk. More of when we say something called as in internal controls, we call it as mitigation of risk or moving away, removing the risk. So unless or until we have documentary evidences in our hand, we cannot negate this risk. That's what I mean to say. Fails to invite any attention to any material departure from the generally accepted procedure of audit applicable to the circumstances. So unless or until we have a proper documentation in hand, even though we have done any deviation from the generally accepted auditing standards, we cannot prove it, sir. So we have our next set of documentation. What does the standard say on SA 230? It places an emphasis on the timely preparation of an audit documentation, establishes a new requirement that the auditor prepare the audit documentation. If in exceptional circumstances the auditor judges it necessary to depart from relevant ISA requirements, that is international standards of auditing requirements. Excuse me. So audit documentation or standards very explicitly provides that a proper timely provision or timely making of audit documentation is necessary for completion of audit. That's what our audit documentation ultimately tries to establish over the few years which has been regulated, propagated, whatever it is. So if in exceptional circumstances, as I previously mentioned, if they are departing from the international standards of auditing, or if they are departing from the generally accepted auditing standards, they should provide or they should retain some amount of documents or some amount of evidences that proves that they are valid in such deviation. Okay. So what are the various what are the various components of audit documentation? Working paper files, typical, what is the format of working papers, storage and ownership of working papers. These components of audit documentation, which we are going to discuss it over the next few minutes, just another 5 minutes. Somebody has questioned there is no audio too. Is it no audio also? Am I not audible?
Audio is fine, sir. Audio is fine.
Somebody has messaged me that audio is also not fine.
No, that might be issue at their end, but audio is fine, no problem. You can continue.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. So now there are two kinds of files. Working papers, we call it something called as working papers files. Working paper file, we for each and every component of financials, or for each and every number in the financials that we are certifying, we need to maintain documentation, or we need to maintain something called as working paper, or otherwise called as work paper. So there are two kinds of working paper files. Another term that we use is called as working papers files. There are two kinds of files that we maintain. One is permanent file as well as current file. So permanent file, whatever is statute which cannot change unless or until the engagement is over, unless or until there is a huge business change or management change in their company, in the permanent filing or constitution, because what forms part of this permanent file is what is their nature of business, what is their entity level risk assessment, what is their fraud risk assessment, whatever we do prior to our engagement, or whatever we do prior to even getting engaged as a partner, or after engagement, or before starting the assignment, or before starting the actual work, that forms part of the permanent file. It may include figures, it may not include figures, it may include financial information, it may include opinions of auditors, previous auditors report, NOC, and all those things will form part of the permanent file. Current file is whatever is prevalent or whatever is relevant to their existing audit whatever is relevant to the existing audit that we are doing or existing assignment that we are doing. For example, there is a firm which is getting empaneled with a company as an auditor for the period of 10 years. Firm that is, as per Companies Act also, it can get empaneled for 10 years. Okay. Now, if I'm doing it for the first year, and I should correct, if I'm doing it for the first year and for the first time I'm doing for that company, whatever information that I gather from the previous auditor as well as any other market information, etc., whatever I do, those forms part of the permanent file. Current file is whatever forms part of the audit of the particular year. For example, I'm starting the statutory audit of that particular company the first year. Whatever I am gathering evidence, that will form part of the current file. Working paper, this is, we call it as a current, working papers classified into permanent file and current file, and current file is that particular year's working paper. These files are intended to contain data of historical or continuing nature pertinent to the current audit. Sir, I have a doubt, sir. Do we have to maintain a permanent file only in case of a new engagement, or even for the older engagement also we can have? Anybody can answer this question. Anybody can answer this question for me. This permanent file that we are saying, is it to be maintained, or is it to be prepared only for a new engagement, or is it to be prepared only for a new set or new company, or to which we are getting engaged as a partner, or sorry, as an auditor, or should we do it for a continuing business also, for continuing audits also? Anybody? Anybody? Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, Rajkumar sir. Thank you. Continuing audits also, and I hear somebody also saying older files also we need to be done for continuing audits. Thank you so much for whoever has responded, sir. I'm not able to address it with their names, but you're right, sir. You should do it for a continuing engagement also. Assume, sir, there is a company which has changed its nature of business. Unless or until you do some research on their new business, how will be able to certify their financials, sir? So you should maintain that permanent file for continuing business also, in case not in case, for even if they change the business or if they don't change the business, whatever it is, any other addition or any other incremental information that we get which will significantly influence our decision to sign or significantly influence our opinion towards financial statements, it should be forming part of our permanent files. Current files, what are the current audit files, as we have already discussed, which is prevalent for the relevant year, whatever we are doing. So what are the components under the current files? What are the types, or what are the components that will come under? What is the audit program? General information, working trial balance, adjusting and reclassification entries, and supporting schedules. So audit program, starting with audit program. Coming back to this particular aspect, audit program. How do we schedule our audit? Whether it can be quarterly basis, reviewing their accounts, signing their accounts on a quarterly basis for a listed company for that matter, or for other companies also, we can design some audit programs. Either it can be reviewing their accounts on a periodical basis, so that we don't it's not a humongous task when we get into the last date of the financial year. General information. What are the other general information? For example, the director details for companies, for a partnership firm, it could be partners details, loan details. What are the other unsecured loans, capital balances, and all those things. For a companies, it could be director details. It could be shareholder details, and all those things will form part of the general information. Working trial balance, it could be first cut, second cut, after passing entries, after not passing entries. It could be a adjust trial balance, and all those things will form part of the working trial balance. Adjusting and reclassification entries, Somebody has raised a question. Online. Just a minute, sir. Okay. Sir, I'll just take and after completing this basics, I'll see through the questions, and I'll provide you a respite, sir. Just give me 5 minutes. I'll just complete this PPT, sir. Thank you. So adjusting and reclassification trees on our audit, on our test of details, on our test of transactions, on our discussions, on our observations, on our analysis, whatever it is, we could suggest some changes in entries. We could suggest some. Somebody said this audio is disconnected. Sir, is it audible, sir? Is there an issue, sir?
It's audible, sir. Since you took a pause, they thought it's disconnected. No problem.
Okay. So whatever analysis that we could do, and whatever is the result of such discussions, if there is anything to be added, or if there is anything to be revisited, or it should be changed, that forms part of the fourth component called as adjusting and reclassification entries. I'm sure everybody would have experienced this particular fourth component, and the three components also, yes. Fourth component would have been more, because if each and every no company is perfect, or no employee in a company is a perfect person, or no. So only an auditor, when he comes being an expert, he would be able to suggest, and he'll be able to provide a better clarity on such this thing. And last but not the least, with the supporting schedules, which the supporting schedules means whatever is the working paper, whatever is the, either it could be an Excel sheet, or it could be a checklist that we are going to be filling, whichever is supporting the figures towards the last financials, or towards the last figures that we are incorporating in an annual report and signing it across, that will form part of the supporting schedules, otherwise called as the final working papers. So types of supporting schedules: this analysis, trial balance, reconciliation of amounts, and TOR, that is test of reasonableness. Others, this thing is summary of procedures, examination of supporting documents, informational and outside documentation. Everything, for that matter, whatever we are analyzing, whichever could influence the for example, sir, we are taking one figure from the financials, let's say provision for gratuity. Are we doing any analysis in that, sir? Can anybody answer? Are we doing any analysis in that provision for gratuity, sir? Anybody can answer that, sir? Yes, sir. Can anybody answer? Yes, somebody has said that it is based on actual valuation. Sir, do we do any analysis, sir? In that, sir, are we just relying just on the basis of an expert opinion, or are we doing any analysis on that, sir? That is the question. The question is that one, sir. As we are relying upon the actual valuation, auditor reviews limited for gratuity provision. Ms. Supraganya Subudhi. Thank you very much, madam. But it is a choice of an auditor again, madam. We say again, because we can question the discount rate that they are applying. What we can question the personally I have questioned a lot. Of course, I have got answers. I have not changed anything. But this particular aspect of this questioning the expert valuation report, we can do, because we are the ultimate auditors. We can surely question whatever it is. So moving on with respect to the next point. So what is the format of a working paper, sir? We say, what is the format of a working paper? Now all of it has been digitalized. We are maintaining everything in an Excel sheet, and the Microsoft Office is being used extensively, very extensively. And we say that Microsoft Excel has been a wonderful tool for all of us to maintain the proper documentation. So generally, but going through the traditional practices of the working paper, or traditional practice of audit documentation involved is, that is, what is headings, what is indexing, that is, what generally we prepare when we prepare a project report of sorts, we start with the heading, whatever is the company name, and whatever is the year on which whatever we are doing, and after that we'll call it as an index. What is the content, the area of content, all those things, and tick marks. Wherever we provide any we all know the inverted tick mark we do, so everybody knows that. And sign off, last and not but not the least, the signing financials that we. So storage, working papers of continuing business are maintained indefinitely. Check with legal counsel before discarding any working papers. Generally, sir, can anybody answer how many years should we keep any working paper, sir? I'm sure everybody should be knowing this. Yes, sir. As far as I know, as far as my small knowledge is concerned, we are supposed to maintain it for at least for a period of 8 years. Right from the year we need to, including the year that we are, we are auditing we are signing the financials. So all those things. Shankar sir says that it is 10 years. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. So working papers generally, anybody 8 to 10 years maximum. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mahendran sir. So whatever working papers that you are maintaining, whatever working papers that you are storing, it is to be minimum for a period of at least 8 years. The law also says that to maintain at least for a period of 8 years. And in case of any, after 8 years, I'm saying after 8 years, in case if there is anything to be discarded, ரொம்ப பழசா இருக்கு, ரொம்ப ஓல்டு, அதெல்லாம் எடுத்து தூக்கி போடுங்க அப்படின்னு நம்ம சொல்றோம், நம்ம இந்த மாதிரி நினைச்சோம் அப்படின்னா, unless or until for that also we have to obtain a external confirmation, or for that also we'll obtain a legal opinion before we do any discarding. So ownership of working papers are the auditor's property and not the client's. So at the end of the day, நம்ம தான் சைன் பண்றோம், நம்ம தான் சைன் பண்ணி போறோம், நம்ம தான் வந்து அந்த financial statementsல கீழே நம்மளோட கையெழுத்து தான் வரப்போகுது, கீழே யூடினோட. But at the end of the day, whatever working paper that you are making, we cannot share it with the client as well, because it is our own working paper from which we have undertaken this work, and from which we have highly satisfactorily we have completed the work. In most cases, auditor cannot reveal information in the working papers without the client. Of course, it cannot be revealed outside. It cannot be taken outside. ஒரு இதுக்கு வந்து இன்னொரு இடத்துக்கு போக முடியாது. ஒரு ஆடிட்டர் கிட்ட இருந்து இன்னொரு ஆடிட்டருக்கு கொடுக்க முடியாது. The final financial statements வேணா கொடுக்கலாமே தவிர, the working papers எல்லாம் கொடுத்தோம்னா, then it could be a leaking of information, which can be which can be an issue for an auditor. what is auditor's responsibility? First and foremost, for prepare and maintain sufficient and enough documentation to show that field work have been properly observed. Sir, unless or as I already mentioned, unless or until we are doing, unless or until we maintain something called as documentation, நம்ம வாயால சொன்னா யாருமே நம்ப போறது இந்த 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 மாதிரி இருக்கிற நேரத்துல இந்த உலகத்துல நம்ம வந்து வாயால சொன்னா யாருமே நம்ப மாட்டாங்க. So unless or until we maintain a proper documentation format, we cannot say that we have audited this particular aspect. Next point is form and content should be designed to meet the circumstances of the particular audit documentation. Sir, what I have specified that is there is it depends. What do you mean by depends, sir? This depends on what, sir? Can anybody answer this? I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I'm. I'll speak only in English, sir. I'm sorry. So when I say it depends on this thing, work not documented is work not done. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Rana, sir. The form and content, it says for a particular audit documentation, form and content might vary. It depends on what, sir? On what? Sir, form and content might vary because of the size of the company, nature of business, risk towards this thing, and all those whatever preliminary work we are doing, everything will influence this from something called as form and content of such documentation. Sufficient, we say it as sufficient documentation. The sufficiency is measured through this form and content. So auditor should adopt reasonable procedures to retain audit documentation for a period of time, for whatever sufficient period of time to meet the needs of his or her practice, satisfy any legal or regulatory requirements for a record retention. So nowadays we have this peer review also. So ICAI also prescribe a lot of peer review standards for retaining documents or to maintain proper audit documentation in the assignments that we are doing, right from the scratch till the time that we are penning down or putting our pen down and signing the financials. So everything, the peer review standards it addresses. So for satisfying that purpose also, auditor should maintain proper and reasonable procedures to retain such audit documentation. Okay. Procedure should enable the auditor to access electronic documentation throughout the retention period. He can maintain, the law does not say where he should maintain, how he should maintain, nothing it specifies. So he can maintain whatever, however it is being takenable, however it is being retrievable, he should maintain such in such place. Maintain confidential information, ethical, professional, and legal implications. Keeping aside the legal and professional implications, it is always ethical on the part of the auditor to maintain the confidentiality of information that we are auditing. Unless or until we don't disclose anything, we are restricted by the clients, and prevent unauthorized access to the audit documentation. So not regard audit documentation as a part of or a substitute for the client's accounting records. So it forms part of the audit documentation is not part of the audit. It forms part of it is a crux of the audit that we need to understand. So these are some of the examples: audit programs, analysis, memoranda. Memoranda is that whatever is the documentation or whatever is the representation that we are receiving from the company. Letters of confirmations and representations, abstract of copies of entity documents, schedules of commentaries prepared or obtained by the auditor. Commentaries are prepared or obtained means obtained in the sense like where we are obtaining any valuation report or where we are obtaining any external confirmation report or external expert confirmation report. All these things will form part of schedules or commentaries. prepared or obtained by the auditor. What are the forms? What are the forms of audit documentation? Is that this paper? Sometimes we have it in the paper form. We have such a huge stack of files we can maintain, or we can maintain it in electronic form. So nowadays, the law also states that even if you, the Information Technology Act 2002 also states that whatever you're supposed to retain, or whatever audit documentation that you're supposed to maintain, or whatever documents that you're supposed to retain, if you maintain it in the e-form, it is more than sufficient. So it is in the electronic form: CD, floppy disk, USB, hard disk. I'm sure everybody would know that everything, every type of storage, or every type of the retention, or every type of storage that we are having it in our office is prone to some or other damage. So having a backup on a regular basis is also useful. Other media, would this include audio format? Legal implications. Generally, we cannot for all privacy reasons, we cannot take any audio messages unless or until it is prescribed by the law. If it is prescribed by the law, then yes, this legal keeping aside the you can go by as per the law itself, but otherwise you cannot do any audio recording and all those things. Sufficiency, and last and final slide, sir, with regard to this basics. Enable members of the engagement team with supervision and review responsibilities to So audit documentation, when it is this thing, when it is sufficient, means when the other party, or when the other auditor, or when the co-auditor is able to understand, and when they're able to easily comprehend. I would not say easily comprehend, but at least able to comprehend from the responsible, or from the documentation that you have, and whatever is supporting your opinion, it is said to be sufficient. Enable members of the engagement team with supervision and review responsibilities to understand the nature, timing, and extent, and the results of auditing procedures performed and evidence obtained. Indicate the engagement team members who perform and reviewed the work. Show that the accounting records agree or reconcile with the financial statements or other information being reported on. So this is with regard to some of the basics of audit documentation. So moving on to, so this is applicable to as far as the topic given to me, it's more of corporate audit documentation. But I would, if I speak only for the corporate, it would be a half-baked cake. So I would not like that. So I would rather go for a full meals rather than giving a half-baked one. So sufficiency, or this particular basics is suitable for any audits or any type of certification that we do, be it tax audit, be it statutory audit, be it internal audit, be it revenue audit, be it concurrent audit, whatever audit that we are doing, or wherever we are pinning down for our signature, everything, this particular basics would be applicable. And I'm sure everybody would have got some refreshment from such these things. So post which I would any questions if there, I would spare 5 minutes for such questions, and after that we can move on to some of the standard templates, or some of the best, I would not say standard, but some of the one of the best templates that I've ever seen from the engagement, from the 5 years of post qualification that I had. One person has asked me a question: any light on sharing documents via WhatsApp or non-email media? Sir, whatever it is, WhatsApp has become so famous now, because I suggested all my clients, rather not even my clients, or all my friends as well as CA friends as well as everybody, to not share anything through social media, through through WhatsApp. Better through mail, because mails always speaks, and mails always say that it is a conclusive evidence. So WhatsApp may not be a conclusive evidence, or it might be prone to all kinds of infiltrations. Any other questions? If anybody has, please. Otherwise, I'm moving on to the templates that I wish to share with you all. Audio recording is not advisable unless allowed by law. But can I take photos and documents, video? Yes, sir. Photos and documents, I think video might not be possible, sir, but I think photos on the approval from the company you can take, sir. And I think that is also one of the audit evidence that we are having. One of the, if you do internal audits, unless or until you throw and in your report on one issue, unless or until you show some proof to them, they'll not be able to understand such things, sir. So you can take photos, videos. I'm not sure, sir. It may not be possible. And of course, unless or until it is advised by law, unless or until it is permitted by law, we cannot we cannot infiltrate on the others' privacy. So either as audio as well as video, it might not be permissible. Any other questions, sir? If I can move on to the next level of the some important audit meeting. Can I take video of the audit meeting? Madam, the Aarti Agarwal has asked me, what about the backup of WhatsApp chat? Backup of WhatsApp chat, it comes mainly on the text format, which might not be a valid evidence, and which might not prove to be an efficient tool in storage of evidence. It's you would have exported the chat to a text file, which might not be a because it can be argued that anybody can prepare this text file and make it. So it is not advisable having any documentation in WhatsApp. Some important audio audit meeting. Can I take video of the audit meeting? CA Balaji case Tiruchirappalli. Thank you. Yes, sir. You can take audio audit so that video, sir. But unless you can take the cognizance from the client, and we can take, sir. That's better, I feel. Any other questions? So moving on to the next set of discussions that we are having, sir. I'll take just half an hour's time from now onwards. It's 7:10 or 7:40 or 7:45. We can just wind up. I'll just show you certain templates that I have, or probably I'm not sure whether I can share. It's already available in can save. Susama Varghese has suggested that can save WhatsApp and Google Drive. The Google, as I previously suggested, the WhatsApp chats in itself is not required, because it might not be an efficient audit documentation. That's what I say. But again, it is very similar to taking a backup of WhatsApp chat. Either if you store it through Google Drive, or you can store it to any other Yahoo Drive or whatever it is. Ultimately it's going to be the same result. It's not, I would say, it is not a this thing. It's not a worthy one, because it could be argued that anybody can create such chat. Welcome, Supreet sir. Thank you. Thanks for joining the session. So I'm moving on to some certain templates that you can try and you can try and implement it in your future assignments. Sir, is my screen visible, sir? Is my screen visible to all?
Yes, it's very much visible. Yeah.
So this is one of the standard documentations, or one of the ideal, I would not say ideal, one of the best documentation I've ever seen, or one of the best audit documentation that I've ever seen over these years. Right from my start of, as I already specified, right from the start of my 22 years of age, in this 4 years or 5 years of my practice, or of my post qualification. So starting off with the pre engagement documentation that we need to understand. But first and foremost, we need to understand what is the audit strategy. As I previously specified when we were doing the basics, we were understanding that we need to design an audit program, or we need to maintain an audit program for furtherance towards providing our best towards to the clients. So this is with regard to the audit strategy, the strategy that we are designing to maintain such. So this is with regard to the pre-engagement checklist that we need to understand. So this is divided into 6 checklists that we are having. So each and every checklist we'll go through. After that, I have a set of folders to share to show you, in each of which has certain files inside. But delving each and everything into that, it will take a longer time. But these things we can go in detail, so that you can understand and you can implement it, and you can take these questions and implement in your future engagements. The presentation would be shared, sir. For sure, the presentation would be shared. With regard to this templates, I will confirm, sir. Thank you. Now, if I could expand. So this is with regard to continuous checklist. This is continuous checklist. These checklists are used for somebody has raised a question. I'll check and share, sir. Thank you. Will this template be shared for detailed study? I'll check, sir. I'll surely check and share with you. Thank you. So this is for the continuing audits or continuing clients who are still to whom we are still certifying. So for them, we have to understand and we have to fill this particular checklist. Do we continue to have the experience and do we knowledge and resources to service the client? So this is our internal question that we have. Do we have any doubt which has arisen during our course of work regarding integrity of the directors or management? So when we say yes, no means no, a straight no. But when we say yes, we need to provide the reasons. So on top, when we start with what is the client's name, what is the audit period, who is preparing and who is reviewing this particular thing, and every reviewing person should sign this particular document as well. Is there a significant, has there been a limitation in the scope of audit or the nature of evidence that has resulted in a qualified audit report? For example, in the previous years, we have given a qualified audit report. What is the reason for such provision? And what is the reason for such, such qualified opinion? Is it continuing in the current year also? And how do we go about it? Is it riskier? I have a very famous auditor friend of mine who has been certifying, who has been in the practice for the past 10 years, and he was, due to the relationship that he had with the client, he was continuously issuing only qualified audit reports, and the client also continuously was doing the same mistake again and again. He was also issuing the same qualified reports, and I told him once for all, come out of the audit or provide an adverse opinion. And next year he gave an adverse opinion, and that company was under the scanner for disclosing or doing that mistake again and again. If you ask me what is the mistake, they were showing share application money pending allotment for the continuously for a period of 5 to 6 years, and once they gave the adverse opinion, it was the company went into the scanner, and the directors were taken into custody for the next thing. So is there any significant concern that such a restriction could arise in the future? As I previously stated, where we understand that the qualified opinion, because of this particular reason, I have given a qualified opinion. So in this current year also, will it continue, or any other new issue is cropping up? So that is what we call it as a significant concern. Or significant concern means, to put it in other words, what is the company, in case if the company says that they have mitigated this particular issue or mitigated this particular reason for which we have given the qualified audit report, what are the company has done, what are the steps the company has taken to resolve the issue as they claim? As the audit report being qualified being the previous year, yes, if you say yes means what is the reason behind, we need to understand. Are the circumstances of a nature to bring into doubt whether we should continue to, are the circumstances of a nature to bring into doubt whether we should continue to act or not? So if the company continues to claim the same mistake and again, if the company, I repeat again, if the company continues to commit the same mistake again and again, we should think about being appointed as an auditor the next year as well. Whether we should get appointed or we should not get appointed. Are there significant concerns as to the client's ability to continue as a going concern? If you have already specified, if the company's going concern is being doubted, so the next year also the same report cannot be issued. Is there any indication of a criminal activity, that is money laundering? So any issues with the Benami? So now that Benami, a lot of issues of provisions have come. So any money laundering issues, Benami transaction issues, all these criminal acts, whether any issues are there with the clients? Yeah. So risk assessment based on review of accounts, based on matters for attention of partners for a previous year, points for next year, qualifications in the audit report. So many of the times auditors, 99% they would, I'm sure they would exercise a lot of due diligence in certifying their accounts. 99.99% they would understand, but one or two, due to materiality issues or these things, they would take it for the next year to get it rectified. For example, this year we say this particular internal financial control could potentially lead to a particular fraud, a particular misstatement. We say we certify based on, or we provide our signature based on such comment, but whether it is and we take it for the next year for whether it has been, whether that particular matter has come here or not. That is the question that is coming here. Points for next year. Any other points to be rectified? Any other points to be unless other than qualifications, or other than a disclaimer, or other than a qualified opinion, other than a matter of a qualified opinion, are there any qualifications, or are there any points for next year to be concerned of? Risk assessment based on economic scenario and industry risk. Is the industry in some recession? Is the industry in the downside turn? Now that because of this corona issues, many of the industries are facing a lot of issues. Though it might be an economical scenario, sometimes there might be some industrial scenarios which might lead to a downfall, or which I would not say downfall, but with downsizing of the company. Sometimes their transactions might be limited, sometimes their transactions might be abnormal, and all those things which would based on the economic scenario and industry risks. And all those questions would be, all those comments would be given over here. Has there been recent change in the government policies or regulations governing the concerned industry? So government has been continuously providing. If I could differ with many of the members over here, government has been continuously providing a lot of regulations and issues to with regard to running of companies and all those things, be it positive as well as be it something enforcing some regulations on them. So are there any recent changes which could significantly influence the excuse me it could significantly influence the government's, or the industry, the company's financial information, or company's going concern, or for the matter of companies are running, the nature of business also, it would come here. The firm has partner rotation policies, is it completed as the numbers of as a sort of client considered. For example, if you are a pan-India partner, or if you are having more than 10 partners, are there any firm rotation, that is a partner rotation within the same firm itself? So that would be coming over here. Are there any commercial risks which affect our continuance or reappointment? Debt-owned funds, customer dependency. For example, if some of our employee or some of our partners are indebted to the company, are there any issues like that? Out of the allowance which is being provided by the companies, by the statute, that is the Companies Act, like 1 lakh above guarantee, or any other officer or employee of the company with a relation of a partner and anything will be coming in the independence threats. Anything which affects our complete independence of an auditor, which those questions needs to be answered over here. Are there any services provided to the client which are in conflict with? So for example, if a firm is providing both internal audit as well as statutory audit, it needs to be removed. Prior to this was a situation prior to 2014, that is April 1, 2014. Many of the firms were providing both internal as well as statutory audit services, but 144 has got this particular provision. Do any of the following people hold shares? The firm, potential member of the audit team, partner of the firm. Anybody who are working in an audit firm or working in or part of the audit firm, do they have any relationship, any relative of the company who are working there? Everything will be answered over here. Is the firm currently dealing a promoter of the shares of the client? All those things. So many of the questions over here, if you could read through, these all are highly prior to all the engagement, or prior to our the starting of the second year or the next year's audit. We need to answer these questions. Unless or until we answer these questions, we cannot take up that engagement, because it will be these questions will prove to be a check mark for any kind of hassles what we are going to face, or potential hassle that we are going to face. So level of fee income. So the total fees that will be generated by the client represent a large proportion of the firm's total fees. For example, if I'm having a single client, so that needs to be, do the fees that will be generated by the client represent a large proportion of the revenue of the partner who will be responsible for the assignment? Are there significant fees which have been outstanding for a prolonged period of time? I'm sure many of you would have heard this new. I'm sure I just saw this news 2 or 3 years ago. Sorry, 2 or 3 days ago. I'm sorry. That is, if the client has audit fees pending for a good amount of time, or if it is standing in their books, no, the auditor should not certify their financials. That's what it was given in that news item. Anybody is aware, sir? Anybody has seen that? Anybody has seen that? So so prolonged audit fees, anything which is outstanding for a good amount of time, I think auditor needs to take a call as to whether he needs to certify the financials or not, because this present year fees will also may be in doubt. So any involvement with the client, either on a personal side or any on the financial side, if the potential member of the audit team, or any partners or any other employee of the firm or the company who are in direct relationship with the either of the two parties, so which would be again affecting the independence. Are there conflicts of interest arising between this client and other existing clients? So for example, are there conflicts of interest means arising between this client or other existing clients? So is there any, being in the same industry, are there any disputes between the same clients itself? So both of them, we are the auditors, they are independent companies as such, they don't have any relations, but if they have any issues within themselves, so we need to understand. Control environment is the internal control environment that we have. So what is the internal checks, what is the software they use, what is the red flags, and all those things they use to provide to maintain the secrecy within the company, and make sure that no transactions are oversighted, or no transactions are going on the other side which is out of control. Okay, Organization management structure, has they undergone any huge expansion stages, huge expansion? Have they opened any new factory or opened any new business? Have they acquired anything? Have they expanded inexplicably? And all those things will be coming under this particular question. Acquired any other entities. So Companies Act, the reappointment is in the compliance of section 139, or the compliance with section 139. We need to check it up and all those things. So what is the documentation that we require? Letter seeking content, form ADT1, appointment letter with the resolution copy and engagement letter, and all those things will form part of this particular documentation. This is with regard to your pre-continuance. That is, even if it is for a continuing assignment as well as for a new assignment, we need to make sure this checklist is filled, reviewed, approved, signed, and kept across for any documentation as such. Any other, this particular list is actually an exhaustive list. This is a it is not an sorry, this is actually an not so complete list, I would say. It can be more and more questions can be added. This is just a one such checklist which I found to be very satisfactory, and which I found to be very I would not say complete, at least to standardized towards a major extent for any other kind of assignments, or for any kind of assignments that we are undertaking. Next understanding is, what is the next checklist is actually business understanding that we need to understand. So what is the business understanding? For mainly starting again with what is the describe the client's business and nature and industry in detail. What is the name of the client, audit period, etc., etc. Everything is done. Who are the key shareholders? Either it can be companies, it can be individual shareholders, mutual fund shareholders, whatever it is. At the end of the day, every shareholder, at least major shareholders, we say key shareholders means we always specify in our audit report, annual report as well, more than 5%. The person who are holding more than 5% will be forming part of this pertinent shareholders thing. So everybody, for listed companies, how much you can give. So key shareholders who are holding major stake, they can form part of this particular list. Source would be, the best source would be the annual report. Majority of the source will be the annual report. Okay, key managerial personnel who are the CFO, CEO, company secretary, managing directors, chairman, board of directors, and all those people will be forming part of the key management personnel and functional heads. Functional heads means we say director of finance, director of operations, director of marketing, director of sales, and all those people will be forming part of this key managerial personnel. Okay, I'll answer this question, sir. While finalizing balance sheet, I saw one of the loan accounts of client enterprise marked by bank as NPA. Should I qualify my report stating that the facts on going concern concept? Yes, sir. You can give a qualified opinion on this, stating the facts are not. It will not be a going concern. Probably in the coming year they might rectify that. But at the end of the day, to keep ourselves safe, you can obtain a management representation letter saying that this particular bank has this particular loan account has become an NPA, and it is being rectified, but it will be rectified in the coming year, and you can qualify the report, sir, based on the representation. So this is with regard to your so information about the members on the board of directors, members of the audit committee. So sometimes for listed companies and for the companies who are supposed to constitute an audit committee, also they would be we need to whether they are in compliance with the statutory regulations or not. Affiliated organizations or related parties, subsidiary, associate. Based on this Ind AS concept, we have a lot of types of, or a lot of types of related parties. Either it will be de facto control, and all those things and all we have studied. I'm not very proficient with Indian auditing standards. I mean Indian accounting standards, Ind AS, but whatever I have heard till now and my ears, I'm just stating that over here. So what are the significant trends within the industry? So whether the company is growing, whether the company is declining, whether the company is stable. If it is declining, what is the reason? If it is growing, what might be the reason? If it is stable, then also we can specify the reason, saying that the company is in the profit making mode and they wish to increase their capital on a year-on-year basis, we can say that. So these all are questions which can be answered, only if you start answering these questions. I'm sure many questions will arise. Only if these basic questions starts getting answered, this will be forming part of, and once these all are forming part of our documentation, a lot of other insights and a lot of other knowledge also might be gathered from this particular assignments. Clients computation, nature of clients significant assets, liabilities, revenues and expenses. So revenues, what are the significant revenue streams of the company? What are the major expenses? For example, for a software company, no major expenses than a salary and wages for them. Salaries, what is it? Employee compensation. For significant assets, computers. So for a software industry, I mean to say, for a software company, I mean to say. Extent of government regulations that may affect the client. So for example, for a pharmaceutical company, other than Companies Act, other than any other PF, labor laws, GST, other fiscal laws, all other things, there is one other act which is called as Drug Control Act, or this Narcotics Act, which is governing this pharmaceutical industry, through which they need to comply with the regulations. Describe the methods used to advertise, sell and distribute the entity's product. Or so what are the main modes of selling? For example, if they are selling through agents, if they are selling through the direct selling, sales promotions, what are the types of sales promotion that they're doing? Advertisements, putting out in the social sites, major or convert or holding exhibitions and all those things. So what are those other, whatever they prepare, or whatever modes of selling their products that they do, everything needs to be specified over here. What are the IT applications that they do and how safe it is? That is most important. Okay, ultimately, for example, if it is a SAP system, or if it is an Oracle system, if it is a Tally system, or be it even the in-house generated ERP system, whether the more than financial information we say or we certify, whether the internal control of such particular IT or of the ERP package, whether it is matching the industry standards or not, or the company standards or not, we need to understand. Describe the management information system prevailing in the entity. What is the periodical information that is being circulated inside the company and what is given to the auditors? Primary users, shareholders. How is the entity financed? Either it can be bank finance, short-term borrowings, unsecured loans, self-financing, owned funds, and all those things, alliances, customers, and all those things. Everything will be coming under this particular questions. So these are the basic information which it can be even better. It is better, I would suggest, to every auditor who is present over here to answer these questions even before the engagement or even before the audit appointment is coming to us. So this is with regard to your business understanding aspects. Moving on to the next, some planning memorandum, fraud risk assessment. These are some of the comprehensive checklists that we know. But since I'm running out of time, I want to move on to the next this thing. So these are some of the basic this thing. Probably if the SIRC chairman approves, I'll surely share the templates with you. Putting in this thing and share it with you. Moving on to the next aspect is the actual audit. So once we start, this is the previous checklist that we were going through was the pre-audit checklist, that is pre-engagement checklist that we need to fill through, so that a lot of information, filling this checklist itself will make you understand a lot of the basic information about the particular assignment or the company. Okay, so this is the level of documentation that we need to implement during our format of, or during our engagement process, or during our audit process. The first and foremost, the financial statements and the audit report. So financial statements and audit report, this financial statements will contain all the sets of draft as well as final financials. So if you go inside, if you see there is a particular the particular companies, it's having both whatever financials that we prepare, either it can be a draft V1, V2, V3, V4, V5, V6, V7, whatever versions of financials, whatever draft, how much ever draft we are preparing, everything should form part of this financial statements and audit report. Inside this can also be the final financials. So you can ask me a question: if I keep all the draft of financials, how can I identify the final set of financials? If you can ask me this question, I would very simply say that please number them, sir. V1, V2, V3, V4, V5. If you could number them, it will be easy for you to identify. And audit report, it can be the draft stages can also be stored in here, as well as the final stages can also be stored in here. The audit report draft stages, once you prepare and circulate it to your auditor, the auditor might provide you a some draft revised version. So what you can do is, where the changes is required to be made, or where the changes is supposed to be made, you can change those changes, or track those you can track those changes and keep it relevant to the document, and you can save a copy, and you can keep that as final. Once for the next set of assignments, or for the next year that when you come, you can use those, track those changes, and make sure that no mistakes are repeated once again. Second point is this in-days checklist, which is very, very comprehensive checklist, which has been if you could look through. This is with regard to I'm sure many of you, unlike me, many of you would be exposed to in-days standards. So these standards, these templates, these Excel templates for filling up these checklists would be useful for each and every standard. We have, I have a template which is being used, so which can be used across for your easy we can easy references. So moving on to the auditing standards checklist. So all the auditing standards, if you could see, top sheet 220, 230, on all the auditing standards are specified in here. So if some standards are not applicable, for example, emphasis on matters paragraph, there is a separate standard on emphasis on matters paragraph, and we say this particular client does not have any emphasis on matters paragraph, that could be stated as not applicable. Please don't ignore any checklist. This particular checklist, even though if it is not applicable, state it as not applicable, because this particular the checklist might be applicable anytime at any point of time for a particular client. Audit report checklist, CARO applicability sheet, and main audit report checklist. So this we can go in and we can check. So these can be understood for the CARO 2016, CARO 2020. I'm sorry, I've not changed that thing. So for whoever it's applicable, whether it is applicable or not for all the CARO checklist. If it is applicable, what is the if it is not applicable, why it is not applicable? Because it is a banking company or insurance company and all those things. So if it is applicable, then this is CARO applicability check sheet, and CARO check sheet is the next one. So it starts with whether you have filled the CARO applicability sheet. And each and every paragraph. So starting off with the basic fixed assets, inventories. So this will be able to understand whatever areas you have not covered. Also, this will help you to cover, and it will make you understand the whatever areas. Sometimes we could every to err is human, so that is absolutely fine. But this particular checklist, when you're trying to fill this will be helpful. It will be when you're trying to fill this checklist, it would throw some light on whether you have missed any topics or not. This audit report checklist, again, it will be useful wherein to give a true and fair view whether these whether you have conducted specific inquiries with management as per section 143(1). So management, in the sense like it includes those charged with governance of the TCWG also. So all the information, explanations, whether in our opinion proper books of accounts. So all those checklists or all those questions It will all add to your value addition to the client, whatever you do. Okay. It does. Spending some good amount of time for this particular matters and filling up this checklist, because this is the ultimate audit report. This is the ultimate value addition that we are through this audit report. We are giving a biggest value addition to the company, which would help them to enhance their practice, to enhance their to enhance the practice of doing business, or to enhance their internal controls. It would be you are taking part in their development of the company also. So an IFC checklist in case of internal financial control checklist, whether it is applicable or not, and all those things. So next one is the extracts of minutes, whatever the board meeting has undergone, whatever the audit committee meeting has undergone, whatever the shareholders meeting, extraordinary meetings, committee meetings, whatever minutes or whatever meetings that has happened over the year or over the full year, it will form part of this extracts of minutes. And any other key decisions which is taken, that will also form part of this thing. So sometimes we would have missed something. We would have missed something in our continuous checklist. We would have missed something in our audit strategy planning memorandum. So that time we would have not recorded over there. So this extracts of minutes. This is an internal documentation which is coming from directly from the company. We are not going to touch this. But this particular extracts of minutes will help us filling up those checklists which is on par with the company records. Next one is directors disqualification declaration. In case the directors have not the previous year the company has not filed their annual returns, or the directors have not done their EKYC and all those things, those declarations and all disqualifications will form part of your directors disqualification folder. And next one is the taxation workings, provision for taxation workings. So how we are arriving at particular tax or provision for current tax or provision for this thing. This includes even your deferred tax, sir. This will not only include only your current tax, this will include even your deferred tax calculations. Next one is contingent liability. Contingent liability, a firm or a company or even for that matter any business might be having a lot of cases pending, or any other issue they might be facing. Either it can be a legal dispute or it can be any other materialistic dispute that will involve a significant fund outflow from the company or from the business, which needs to be worked out in contingent liability workings. Of course, we all know that it does not form part of the financial statements, but it will form part of our opinions. Audit issues observed and resolved. What are the various we give something called as sometimes we rely this particular audit issues observed and resolved. How sometimes we rely upon the 13th serial number of internal audit reports. Sometimes what the internal auditor has stated, those particular comments will take into cognizance and how they have been resolved over the few years or for the months of doing their business. Minutes of meetings with the clients, whatever client discussions we had, everything needs to be recorded. Or I recorded in the sense like I'm not saying audio record or video record. It should be recorded in writing. Okay, it can be if permitted by the client, we can take a signature from the client as well. And minutes of internal meetings, whatever the partner review meetings or manager review meetings, everything needs to be documented over here. This is external confirmation. We have actual valuation, which is actual valuation with regard to gratuity, with regard to leave encashment, or at the point of for that matter anything for which we are obtaining actual valuation shall form part of this particular folder. Next one is anything with related to bank informations. Bank informations will include everything, sir. It will include whatever we are dealing with the bank. Everything we need to take it into cognizance. For example, it can be say current account balances, savings account balances, if there are any. It can be loan account balances, OD account balances, CC account balances, any term loan balances, everything. Preferably, if we could have a separate certificate. If we are getting everything from a single bank, that single bank is providing everything in a single certificate, well and good. But we are having a different bank, we get a different. It's better to have a different certificates and different certificate for a different exposures as well. Where various exposures also will have a different certificates. Next one, we'll move on to creditors confirmation. We all know, sir. We all completely rely. We all know that we don't believe our clients' records, because those clients confirmation, those creditors confirmation, those all are forming part of somebody who are outside. So taking confirmation from them is more reliable than believing our own client. Okay, data's confirmation. So these creditors as well as debtors, are we doing 100%? So say you're doing a MNC, you're having an MNC. Say you are having 1,000 customers. Can you get confirmation from all the 1,000 customers? Not possible, sir. Not at all possible, sir. So you take a sample confirmation or 5 or 10 confirmations, which could be materially affecting the data's figures, or which could be materially affecting the creditors figures, and you can keep it in your documentation. Sometimes we might get some exclusive parties. For example, assume you are having a single customer. The company has a single customer. You means I'm saying the company. The company has a single customer. So single customer, they are providing a lot of goods. They are providing a lot of practices. So providing a lot of services, everything. So taking a confirmation from them on a exclusive note will also help us. For example, if a firm is providing, if the company is providing exclusive services to Tata Motors, or exclusive services to Reliance International, Reliance the companies, or exclusive services to Ford, Samsung, whatever it is, whatever big companies that they have, if you can have a separate confirmation from them, it would be more and more useful for our documentation purposes. Sure, sir. I'll increase the font. Thank you. So last and final, we have this thing called as work papers, which we prepare it internally, which we prepare last, I would not say last, well, second last and final work paper, which we prepare it internally and which we maintain it for our teaching. So just so how it is divided, this work paper is divided into two types. One is balance sheet, and one is balance sheet, and another is profit and loss. So moving on to balance sheet, what are the assets, what is the equity and liabilities? If you go to assets, non-current assets, current assets. So non-current assets, if you see, start with fixed assets, financial assets, if you have any investments, if you have any shares and anything, those things. And other non-current assets, deferred tax asset or other non-current assets will be forming part of this particular non-current assets. Current assets, we have inventories, financial assets, again short-term assets, short-term investments, and other current assets forming part of trade receivables, cash equivalents, and all these things will be forming part of other current assets. Equity and liabilities, again equity, share capital. What is the share capital? What are the components of share capital? Sir, very simple is that how do we present in the final financial statements, and how do we present in the, for example, if you are providing a revenue from operations over there, we give an annexure or we give a notes to accounts, 2 pages or 3 pages after that, saying the revenue from operations this much, less revenue from other operating revenues this much, and we give a total figure. That should be the format of a working paper over there, the revenue from operations. So that should be forming part of. The same thing goes for non-current liabilities also, and current liabilities also. Okay. Moving on to the next format, profit and loss. We divided it into, that is again, there is one is expense and the one is revenue. And revenue, we go into revenue from operations and other income. So when we say revenue from operations means what is the main streams of revenue? For example, if the company is both into goods as well as into services, we divide it into sale of goods and sale of services. And how do we, what is the documentation to be maintained for revenue from operations? All kinds of GST compliances, all kinds of, for that matter, 26 says now it's automatically giving us the GST figures themselves. So those types of copies that you can have, or those types of soft copies as well as as well as hard copies, those things will be forming part of your revenue from operations. Other income, it could be anything. All those forming part of income, which are not our revenue from operations. Very simple definition is, and any income apart from revenue from operations will be forming part of other income. Other income, it can be interest revenue, dividend revenue, it can be foreign exchange fluctuations, exchange rate fluctuations, anything forming part of other income will be coming under this other income. Others, it will be others. What constitutes others is that the management representations, previous audit reports, all those historical, permanent as well as historical information, everything will be forming part of this others. Whatever does not fit into all those, the above four, will be fitting into this particular others aspect. Okay, so these all are some of the templates that I can share it with you. Inside, I think work papers have not gone inside, because once I go inside, it will be a huge aspect. One is starting with a link and all those things. It is a huge thing to be discussed upon. So, which I think if I take a lot of time, it will take a whole. If I start that, it will take another whole night for me to complete that. So, just covering only the macro aspects of this particular audit documentation and completing this one. Any questions we have, we can just address that. And I have just 8 minutes left, so we can just address that and we can close the session. Rahul Vishas, good for you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Selva, any more questions are there?
Any questions? I would be glad to.
No, sir. He is also having organizer, so he can see the questions then and there.
Yeah, I'm just seeing.
Maybe they might be taking some time to type it out. Let's wait for 1 or 2 minutes.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
we'll give the participant 2 minutes.
Yes.
Balaji is. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, Balaji, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, so I think we reached the end of the program. Thank you so much, Adithya, for a very nice presentation and all sharing of the working papers, etc. It was very, very interesting indeed. I thank all the participants for this active session and answering the speaker and coordinating, interacting. It's always very nice to have a live feedback like the way that you had shared. Adithya, if you can switch on your camera, please, the participants can see you. Okay, I think he's having some difficulty with his webcam. So I thank also the chairman in absentia and Sundar Rajan, my fellow council colleague also. I also want to share with all the members here today that we have planned many interesting programs. Of course, I know some of it is clashing around the due date of filing of your tax audit returns and tax audit dates, but we've got some very eminent speakers. And as you're all aware, we are ending the CP rolling period has been extended to 31st January. So in order to help members who may not have hit the required target for the CP, you can definitely attend this month, and most of them are free programs, so you can enrich your CPAs in the following months with excellent speakers. So tomorrow we have a panel discussion on accounting and audit issues in the automobile industry, where we have Sri TV Venkatraman, who's the VP and head of internal audit in Ashok Leyland, and CA Ravi Shankar, who's the executive vice president of finance and HR in Sundaram Motors of TVS. So excellent speakers, and that program tomorrow is a free program. Once again, it is from 6 to 8 p.m. I request all members to please do register and join. Share it with your friends and colleagues as well if they can join. On 17th of January, on Sunday, we have a very, very respected speaker, Zubin Bilimoria from Mumbai, who will be taking a session on the changing paradigms of CSR and the recent amendments of CSR. So also a very, very good session. So I request all of you to join. I will share the further sessions as we progress. We have many sessions lined up till the end of the month, including the Ashok Kumbat Memorial Lecture, where we are having past President CA T.N. Manoharan sir will be joining, and various such interesting sessions with excellent speakers. I thank all the participants for supporting us through these programs and making it a grand success. I hope you all will take care of your health and wish you all the best in filing your tax audit forms. So thank you. Take care. Stay home. Stay safe. Thank you, Adithya.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all the members who have patiently heard me. I'm sure if I would, if I can have a feedback on this thing. This is my mail ID. I'm just putting it in the chat.
Yeah, we will share the feedback with you, Adithya. I think the participants, they will all fill the feedback form. We will definitely share that with you.
And one question Mr. Sriram has raised. We are the auditors of a subsidiary company and the parent company is in Singapore. For group consult purposes, group auditor is asking for working papers can be provided. Sir, I would request you to take a call as to whether, because as far as if you ask my opinion, you can provide the whatever has been finally certified by you, you can provide. But the working papers, which it might not be required, I feel. You can take a call, sir. That's what I would say. Thank you to all the members. Thank you to all the organizers of SIRC. Thank you to Abhishek sir, Dungar sir, and Sundarajan sir, who have patiently heard me and patiently who have provided me this opportunity as well for expressing my views on whatever it is. Thank you so much for everybody. Thank you. Abhishek sir, should we disconnect, sir?